Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I'm back with the last part of my 5-part epic journey through the Christmas wonderland that is southern New England. As I mentioned in my past few videos from my store visits, my wife and I went on a week's vacation the week after Christmas. We visited some of the seaside Christmas towns in southern New England, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, and we went to 8 comic book stores, only 7 of which were open. Now, in the previous 4 videos, I've showed one comic book store in each of those, but today we're going to wrap it up with all the others together, and that's mainly because I didn't buy that much in any of these stores, so I don't have, I can't fill a whole video with them. But I'm going to tell you all about the stores, my experiences in these stores, some of which were a little bit rocky, but I did get some cool stuff anyway. And then I'll also tell you about the story about the store that was not open. But we're going to start, as I've promised in the past, we're going to start our journey in Newport, Rhode Island. Now, Newport is a cool, very famous island town. Super cool. They have some tall ships there, or they have a tall ship there. They have a lot of great shopping, a lot of great restaurants, a lot of great Italian restaurants, museums, and they're also famous because it was a town during the Gilded Age when all of the super rich people from New York, all the captains of industry, they all had their summer homes in Newport, and those summer homes were incredibly huge, ornate mansions. And those mansions, some of them are now owned by a trust in the town, and they're open to the public. And we actually went to one of them called Marble House, not to visit the museum, not to visit the mansion, but behind the mansion they have this Chinese pagoda thing building where they have you can have brunch and tea, the tea house. And so we had brunch at the tea house, and it's overlooking the ocean behind the mansion. So that was really cool. And there is a comic book store in Newport. It's called the Annex. Now, I want to say that the Annex has great reviews online, and everybody talks about how, in particular, what a great guy the owner is. And I'll say that the owner gave me a great deal on these books, which I'll show you in a minute. I didn't get any video on the inside or the outside, and the store was a challenge. It's very small, and I was there 2 days after Christmas, and that may have played a part in the challenges that I had in the store because it was absolutely full of stuff. There was lots of comics, but I could not get to most of them because there were boxes piled on top of everything, boxes of toys, boxes of junk, boxes of I don't know what, and I just couldn't even get to this stuff. And there was stuff all over the floor. It was just like a hurricane went through there. And so I didn't spend a lot of time there because I couldn't even, I literally couldn't get to most of the comics. There was a few boxes that I was kind of able to get to, and in one case there was a crumpled up bag on top. When I pushed it out of the way, it was just food crumbs went flying out of it, and it was kind of a mess. Again, it was right after Christmas, and it very well may have been, a lot of these little stores are one-person operations, and so he probably had a lot of orders come in for just before Christmas and didn't have the time to organize things. I don't know, but it was a challenge. The other thing that was a challenge for me, and this is a pet peeve of mine with comic book stores, is that the comics weren't priced. So I asked what the prices were. He said he would have to see. So basically, I would find what I wanted, and then he would give me the price. And I always hate doing that. I really don't like that, because it makes me feel like I'm spending a lot of time sorting through books for someone that I may, and then at the end it may turn out that everything's overpriced and I don't want anything. So, and a lot of times it's a waste of time. In this case, he gave me some great deals. I only got a couple comics, but it was some great deals. So I'll just show you what I got, and you can see exactly what I mean. First of all, it's a very nice copy of DC Comics Presents number 49, Superman and Shazam versus Black Adam. Now, this is a really hot book thanks to the movie. It's cooled off a little bit because the movie didn't do that great, but it's a comic that's gotten a lot of attention recently, and I was really happy to see that. The other one that I was more excited for, now this does have a corner crease, but it's World of Wood #2, which has this cool cover, which is a collaboration between the great Wally Wood, inked by the great Dave Stevens. So, Dave Stevens covers, of course, I obviously always look out for Dave Stevens covers. This is one that I've never had before. So I was really excited to get this. And brought these up and I asked how much, and the price for both of these, it was $5 for the pair. So I paid $2.50 each for these. So again, great prices, no complaints on the price. Very happy with those. I just wish I'd been able to get to more comics because I'm sure there was other things that I would have bought, but there's just no way to get to anything, unfortunately. That wasn't the only issue that I had on this trip, though, at a comic book store. Next up on our list is Re-Vive Collectibles, which is in Ashaway, Rhode Island. It's right off the highway, off of 95, easy to get to. And I do have some video from inside this store, so I'm going to show this now while I'm talking. And it's not just a comic book store. It's got all sorts of things. A lot of baseball cards, sports cards, a lot of models. It's got all sorts of hobbies and collectibles, but it does have comics. There were some CGC books, and there were some Silver Age books. So there was some stuff. Now, I had a couple issues here as well. One of them is that some of the books weren't priced. Most of them were, and for me personally, a lot of them I thought were a little too high. I shouldn't say it that way. They were more than I wanted to pay. I don't want to ever say that someone's charging too much, but for me personally, it was more than I wanted to pay. Just an example, they had a Lois Lane 106 that was a CGC. I think it was a 2.5, and it was priced at like $219 or something. So the other thing about the pricing was that there were a number of comics that were still in their old bags from some previous store, and they had the old prices on them, and then they had a new price on them as well. So like there was an Avengers 54, which is the first appearance of Ultron. People say it's 55, but it's really 54, and it had an 80 cents price tag on it. So I got all excited, and then when I turned the book over, there was another price on the back that said $29. So there's a lot of stuff like that. The person working the desk was very nice, but it wasn't my favorite experience. But the big issue I don't think this is the fault of the store. There was some kind of open sewer or something nearby, because when we got out of the car, there was just an overwhelming sewage stench, and so we had to just cover our faces and run into the store. And the store was musty, which, as you know, is a big problem for me because I'm allergic to mold, and mustiness sets off my breathing. But it was a lot better than being outside in the poo smell. Now I've got more of a story about that coming up at a different store. Somehow that's not the only time this happened on this trip, but overall, thanks in part to the horrible poo stench, not our favorite comic going experience. But I did buy some stuff there out of the dollar bin. I paid $1 each for these. So it's Krull #1 and 2. Really dopey movie, but I have a soft spot in my heart for it because I was a kid when it came out, and I read the novelization. I didn't even see the movie, but I read the novelization. Here is what I find really interesting about this is here's the Marvel movie special. I haven't opened these up yet to see if issue 2 is a continuation of the adaptation or if it's like a sequel, because this doesn't say anything about it being a movie special. And you'll notice it has completely different art style, and even the logo is different. I find that all very odd. So I have to, part of me thinks, okay, this has got to be a continuation. It's not it's got to be a new story set in the Krull universe. The other part of me is like, well, this comic is not long enough to be the full adaptation, I don't think. And so, but why doesn't this say anything about it? I don't know, it's odd. Bone number 13 and a half. This was a Wizard special. It's even got a certificate of authenticity from Wizard in the back. And I'm a big fan of Bone. I don't really collect the individual issues, but for $1. Here's something interesting. It's Cadillacs and Dinosaurs #1. It reprints Xenozoic Tales #1. Now, there are multiple titles from different publishers called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. This one is from Epic Comics, but later on there was a spin-off series that I don't think was reprinting Xenozoic Tales, but was just using the property. But I don't know, it was $1. It's Mark Schultz. How can you go wrong? Finally, I didn't know this existed. This is a book that I really liked a lot as a kid. Not so much now, but it's Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight. Here's the first volume of a comic book adaptation from Eclipse. As a really cool cover. As adaptation goes, I thought it was kind of clunky, but again, it was a bit of my childhood there, so I thought it would be cool to pick that up. And finally, our third comic book store of this video is in the town of Putnam. Now, I've mentioned Putnam before. I did a previous video. I'll try to put a link up here if I remember how to do that from the video, because right across the street from the comic store is this giant antique store mall thing that has tons of comics. They have tons of comics. There's like 9 different vendors in this antique mall that have comics, and there's some Golden Age, actually, a little bit, but there's a lot of Silver Age and Bronze Age stuff in that. So I bought a ton of stuff at the antique mall. Ironically, I didn't buy very much at the actual comic store, Wonderland Comics. Last time I was there, it was closed, so we made a point to stop there again this time. I did get some of the video that you're seeing here from inside and from outside, and this isn't even the whole store, it's just part of it. Everything is in alphabetical order, which I've come to decide I don't really care for, because it only benefits a certain type of collector, and it's not me. I'm not that type of collector. What I really like is when it's by genre, or rather you have all the superhero stuff over here, and you can have all your Marvel and DC books in alphabetical order. That's going to be the main part of the store, right? But I really prefer it when they have like a box of war, a box of westerns, a box of romance, a box of horror, a box of Charltons or Dells, or other whatever, because when everything's alphabetical and you're collecting Charlton romance where there's 38 different titles, you have to go through every single one of them individually to try and find the 0 or 1 issue that they have. It's a real hassle. And so I think if I were to ever own a comic book store, which I don't think I will, I would split out those smaller genres so that the people that are looking for those can easily find them. Because the people that aren't looking for them aren't going to buy them when they stumble across them in their boxes. They're trying to find the next issue of Spider-Man. So that's just one way of saying I think there might have been more stuff in this store, but there's only so much time in the day. It's just harder to find it. So I did find a couple things. Less interesting but useful for me personally is Superman number 77 second print. You may recognize this because this is not the only copy of this that I've featured in one of these videos. This is the third copy of this I've had. One of them is still in the trading challenge, which I'm hoping to be relaunching sometime soon. And then I got a copy of this at another store, and I picked it up because last time I got a copy, I was able to sell it on eBay for $40. And this is a really nice copy. It was $4, so I don't know what they're going for right now. The prices can really wildly fluctuate on these late print Funeral for a Friend issues because there's not very many sales. So if someone undersells, it can tank the price for a while. But I know that this is a book that I can flip and get some of my money back for other stuff. But this one I'm keeping. It's Betty and Me number 40. So I was really happy to find this. It was $9, which is probably about right for this book. But this has an infamous story in it where, which I haven't read for a while and I haven't cracked this open, But the long and short of it is something happens where this in the winter, and Betty's clothes all get wet. And so she and Archie like end up at like a roadside motel or something, and there's a fireplace, and basically she has to take all her clothes off to dry them out so she doesn't get hypothermia. Their parents somehow find out, and Betty's dad thinks that they're having a romantic liaison and comes up there and like busts through the door and is going to beat up Archie for taking liberties with Betty. And then they have to like diffuse the situation by explaining what's happening. But it's a very unusual content for Archie comics in the 70s. So it's kind of an infamous story. So I was really excited to get that. So even though I didn't get very much at the store, I did get some cool stuff. And finally, I just wanted to tell the story of the comic store that was not open. That's the comic store, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's CH Collectibles. And it's in Jewitt City, which is a village in the town of Griswold. And it was closed. The hours had changed, so on Google and everything, it said that it was going to be open when we got there. But when we got there, there was a sign on the door where those hours had been crossed out with a pen, and new hours were there, and so it was closed. And I wish I should have called, because we got about a mile and a half away from the comic store, and we started smelling poop again. And so I made a joke. My wife was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, we're coming up to another comic store. It must be the poop. Ha ha." But the closer we got, the worse the smell got. And it just kept going and going. And the whole mile and a half was just increasingly horrible sewage smell. And my wife started like getting almost physically ill. She was like close to gagging. She was like, and she had to like, stick stuff up her nose and cover her face. And like, she was like on the verge of like throwing up because the smell was so horrible. And so we covered our faces. We ran into the building, and inside was very musty, but again, no poop smell. And then like when we got back out, there was like poop smell still in the car. And for like miles, we were like trying to air the car out, but so much of the poop air had gotten in the car. And she ended up getting sick. And I don't know we don't know for sure if it was that. But yeah, she ended up legitimately getting sick for the whole rest of the night, like ill. And I think could have been, at least in part, because of the horrible, horrible sewage poo smell from Jewitt City. And the comic store wasn't even open. So I looked in the window, and they had all these long boxes, and it looked like a really cool place for comics, But we didn't get to find out, and we've already planned that if we ever are down there again, I'm dropping her off in a different town, and I'm going into Jewitt City myself, because we can't risk that happening again. So I don't know if anyone from that area is watching this video, I don't know what's wrong with your town. I feel bad for you for having to live with whatever that horrible stench is, but it literally made us sick. So that was, and not the best way to end our trip. But that's why CH Collectibles is not featured in the video, because they were closed. And maybe they changed their hours because they just couldn't stand to be in the town any longer. I don't know. But that's it for this video. That's it for this trip. Let me know what you think down below. We had a great time on the trip. We visited a lot of cool places, had a lot of Christmas spirit, a lot of Christmas cheer. I found some comics that I've never seen before. So I was very, very happy. And then, hopefully next time we go on a trip, more comic book stores. Until then, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.